just work out if you got that panel. Work out as close as you can around. Roger, I've got the panel. Understand, work around. Work as close as you
can. We fought our country's battles on land and sea and in the air in thousands of places with unfamiliar names. And we provided support to those who did. We saw many of our brothers and sisters give the last full measure of devotion. We are the fortunate ones who returned home to enjoy the freedoms we cherish. We are America's largest combat veterans organization, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. We come together today to rededicate ourselves to another year of safeguarding our nation's security, our military forces, and our veterans and their families, to honor the dead by serving the living. We assembled a year ago on the eve of the VFW's 110th birthday. We had a lot to celebrate. We were also preparing to celebrate the 50th birthday of our Washington office and the 85th birthday of the VFW National Home. Operation Uplink had just provided its 3 millionth free phone call home. And our Unmet Needs program for military families had passed the $3 million mark. The Military Assistance Program had conducted welcome home or farewell ceremonies for more than 300,000 service members and their loved ones. Wisconsin's Tommy Tradewell was sworn in as VFW National Commander-in-Chief in August a year ago. His theme, Honoring Our Military Heroes, focused on preserving VFW 1 entitlements and recognizing those heroes now serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. In his inaugural address, VFW Commander-in-Chief Tradewell tells the VFW it must be strong and vibrant to enthusiastically welcome these veterans home and recruit them into our ranks. It was to be a year of many challenges, with unemployment for Iraq and Afghanistan veterans above 11%, most VA health claims delayed by many months, a long list of health concerns unaddressed, and the nation on the brink of a healthcare overhaul that could threaten the VA system. Early in the year, National Commander Tradewell traveled to China and Russia to encourage those nations to become more active in assisting with POW MIA issues. His visit with Russian parliamentary leaders was particularly important because access to certain military records could help determine the fate of 88,000 unaccounted-for Americans dating back to World War II. There was much work to be done throughout the year, sometimes unexpected challenges, and yes, significant successes. 7 major business chains honored Veterans Day with fundraisers for Operation Uplink and Unmet Needs, and discounts for VFW members and veterans, and Congress declared September 29th National VFW Day. Sports Clips presented us with a check for $250,000, the largest gift to Operation Uplink's free call day program, and enough for 6.3 million minutes of calls. Burger King's promotion, in effect in 22 states this year, brought the VFW's Operation Unmet Needs nearly $500,000. Keeping up with the communication generation, the VFW's Facebook page hit and exceeded the 40,000 mark for web surfers logging on. And VFW's nationally syndicated radio show, The National Defense, started airing on the American Forces Radio Network, expanding its listening audience to 174 countries and all ships at sea. Online efforts helped organize our aid to U.S. service members and their families after the disastrous earthquake, and helped us gather 40,000 signatures in support of Albert Snyder, the father of a slain Marine who was ordered by a court to pay the legal costs of the hate group he sued for picketing his son's funeral. We saw at last the signing of an advanced appropriations bill allowing the VA to know a year in advance what its budget will be. 1, the recognition of 3 additional medical syndromes linked to Agent Orange, and 1, advances in medical care services, including child care for veterans seeking VA treatment, expansion of services to rural areas, better homelessness reduction programs, caregiver support, counseling, and a stipend for family caregivers. Many of these gains were of particular benefit to women veterans, and our efforts helped win a study of health effects on women who served during the Vietnam War. On our urging, the President adopted an Afghanistan strategy committed to heeding the recommendations of military leaders, requested budget increases for national defense, homeland security, and the VA, formed a Presidential Council on Veterans Employment, and expedited special preference in government hiring. When a servicewoman in Afghanistan said she missed chocolate, we saw to it that 21,000 pounds of chocolate were sent to our troops there. Thanks to a grant from the Lined and Harry Bradley Foundation, we multiplied by 5 the number of teachers, counselors, and school officials who will be informed of the VFW's Voice of Democracy contest. Our midwinter conference featured Secretary of Veterans Affairs Eric Shinseki, U.S. Army Chief of Staff George Casey, Secretary of Homeland Security Janet Napolitano, and Congressman Ike Skelton, Chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. Skelton received this year's VFW Congressional Award. He and Senator Jim Webb were also instrumental in getting disastrous omissions in the new National Healthcare Bill repaired, so that all TRICARE and other veterans and DoD healthcare programs are still recognized and protected. Healthcare was still slow in coming through the VA, making the claims backlog the #1 VFW priority when National Commander-in-Chief Treadwell addressed a joint session of the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committees.
The most important issue facing America's veteran today is the unacceptable VA backlog in claims, and equally unacceptable is the processing error rate. The VA currently has more than 1.1 million individual claims and appeals for compensation, pension, and education benefits. This massive backlog has resulted in a 6-month average wait for an initial rating decision and a 2-year average wait for an appeal decision. That is completely unacceptable.
Commander Treadwell also expressed VFW concerns about claims errors, care and treatment of traumatic injuries and PTSD, the need for a modern VA information technology system, veterans' unemployment and homelessness, and military caregivers and survivor benefits. In response, just a few short weeks ago, the Department of Veterans Affairs eliminated a requirement for veterans to require corroboration of a PTSD stressor related to fear of hostile military or terrorist activity if a VA doctor confirms a diagnosis of PTSD and the stressful experience recalled by the veteran adequately supports that diagnosis. National Commander Treadwell called VA Secretary Eric Shinseki decision to ease PTSD claims a sea change in the mindset of the VA. It follows numerous other decisions that increase the list of presumptions for diseases associated with Agent Orange exposure, increased services and programs for women veterans, veterans who reside in rural areas as well as the homeless, and reduce the size of the claims form from 23 to 10 pages. In June, the VFW was the title sponsor for the nation's largest commemorative event honoring Korean War veterans. Thousands of people joined along with General David Petraeus, veteran of Foreign Wars Commander-in-Chief Tommy Treadwell, and numerous elected officials, national and foreign military leaders, and representatives from the United Nations allies in paying tribute to those who served during the Korean War. Just a few weeks ago, VFW Commander-in-Chief Treadwell visited our troops in Kuwait, meeting with military commanders and also the men and women ready to deploy to Iraq and Afghanistan. He found their spirits to be high and spent time letting them know they have the total support of the entire membership of the VFW and its auxiliaries, and welcomed them into the proud tradition of America's veterans. Despite our gains, those challenges remain as goals for the coming year. We must continue to monitor reforms in our national cemetery system and make sure they correct disorganization that resulted in lost and incorrectly marked graves. The heroes who gave their lives deserve much better. We must continue to be a voice for a strong national defense and for the men and women serving in Iraq and Afghanistan now. And when they return home, we must continue to be there to answer their questions of VA and other assistance programs. And we continue to protect the millions of veterans who served and sacrificed for our nation on other shores, in other wars. We must press to gain the passage of improvements to the GI Bill, fixing stipend inequities, honoring Reserve and National Guard call-ups, and expanding coverage for all degrees at public universities and vocational training, apprenticeships, and OJT. We must continue to press for passage of the Veterans Employment Assistance Act to better transfer military skills into the private sector, improve veterans' small business opportunities, and strengthen veterans' employment programs. Those are the key elements of our mission as we move forward into another year dedicated as we have been to serving our nation's veterans, service members, and their families.